so we have to be very tactical in our approach to this engagement. We have to do very carefully, and she's dead. When I play Souls games, I always enjoy puzzling out the best way to deal with a boss's mechanics, even if it means my DPS suffers a little bit. So I'll make builds that prioritize a fun playstyle, a solid theme, and good looks over DPS. This is not one of these builds. Carian Slicer, despite being available from the very start of the game in Limgrave, has damage on par with bleed builds and Ghost Flame Ignition. There's a reason why this spell was nerfed for PvP around the time the Coliseum update dropped. Because this weapon is pure magical damage, we have plenty of easy ways to boost our attack without any tedious buffing phases. We can use the Graven Mass Talisman, the Magic Scorpion Charm, the Spellblade Set, Radigan's Icon, and the Magic Shroud and Cracked Tear. This will all give us wonderful DPS at a moment's notice. However, the most important part of your build is going to be choosing the staff to cast the spell with. Choosing a staff is like me choosing which fast food place to buy from freshman year, because you know I wasn't cooking. It depends on what mood you're in at the time. The obvious choice for this build may be the Carian Glintstone staff, since it says in the description of the weapon that it boosts Carian sword sorceries. So you should run with this one, correct? Well, yes and no. Despite the boost to Carian Slicer itself, the Carian Regal Scepter and Lusat both yield higher damage because of better sorcery scaling. Which of these two you should use depends on your playstyle. If you want to hold a weapon in your right hand and a staff in your left hand running multiple different spells, you should probably use the Carian Regal Scepter. This staff has the best scaling in the game behind Lusat's without that 50% increase to FP costs. If you're going to run a build that exclusively uses Carian Slicer, Lusat's is just the best choice. The 50% increase to cost doesn't matter much, since this spell is dirt cheap to start out with. I was never in a situation in my playthrough where I needed more than 4 blue flasks to beat a boss. In addition to this, you can hold the Carian Glintstone staff in your offhand and still get that bonus to Carian sword sorceries. This setup with Lusat's on the right and Carian Glintstone on the left is the setup I used throughout the whole end game of my playthrough, and the results speak for themselves.